Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Lindsay Whitmore and I'm your instructor for this winter session version of 988-101 Intro to Gender, Race, and Sexuality in the Department of Women's and Gender Studies. I'm so glad you found us here. I wanted to put together this little video so first of all you could kind of put a face to my name. All of our work together over this next couple of weeks is going to be online, and we don't really have any kind of face-to-face components, so I find it helpful to provide you with a little more context for who I am. So like I said, my name is Lindsay Whitmore. I'm a fifth-year PhD student in the Department of Women's and Gender Studies. I've taught this introductory course many times over the last 5 years. In addition to teaching courses on gender, race, and contemporary art, and courses in the certificate program in Women's Global Health Leadership, which is also a certificate that we offer in the Department of Women's and Gender Studies. So I'm going to just sort of take you through the syllabus quickly in this kind of intro video so that you all have what you need to be successful in completing this really jam-packed version of this course. So you'll definitely find all of this information online in the course shell at eCollege, but I'm also giving it to you here so that you have heard it spoken directly towards you. And I'm also, always available to answer questions that you may have, stuff that comes up that either I'm not covering here or that you aren't quite clear on based on this little intro. So our course is meeting fully online from December 23rd to January 13th. So that's basically a Friday plus 3 full weeks of coursework throughout our winter session together. I don't have any set office hours scheduled, but I'm always available by appointment. If you want to check in, we can Skype, we can talk on the phone, we can email, whatever works for you. I'm trying to make myself as available as possible. Email is always probably the quickest and the best way to get a hold of me, but if you'd like to set something up through email, for a little bit more face-to-face contact, I'm happy to do that. So you'll find the course description, in several places on the course shell. Basically, we're introducing you here to the interdisciplinary field of women's and gender studies. We're going to look at how categories of gender, race, and sexuality have been constructed and contested through time. So thinking a little bit less about how these categories of gender, race, and sexuality are natural or given or stable or coherent, and opening that up to see, where are the problems, where are the tensions, what kinds of historical factors have shaped our own identities in the past. We're going to be looking mainly at pop culture and social media, news and current events, and also more contemporary conversations that we're having in our own lives around issues of the body, violence, community building, and social change. And in order to do that, we're going to be using our own lived experiences quite thoroughly in this class, in addition to the more kind of theoretical engagements with topics of power and difference and knowledge. So there's a lot going on here, as you'll see in the reading list, which is at the end of the syllabus. So some of the key questions that we're sort of looking at together in these couple of weeks: what kinds of norms shape our experiences in the world? And how are those norms linked to the formation and embodiment of our own identities? How can we imagine alternatives to these sorts of norms? And where are those alternatives currently being practiced? Many of the materials that we'll read together during this winter session offer up glimpses of people and communities and places acting together and doing things otherwise, doing things differently, imagining different worlds, working through violence to form new kinds of community. These are all kind of areas that we're going to delve into deeper through the larger lens of gender, race, and sexuality. Another key question asks how we personally have encountered dynamics of power and privilege in our daily lives, and also asking how power and privilege are present in our understandings of popular culture. So that's a broad overview of some of the things that we're going to be doing. You'll also get a better sense of a lot of this through the written material in our first week of the course. Readings, overviews, I'll let you know a little bit more about that in a second. Another kind of piece of business, this course does satisfy the SAS 21st Century Challenge learning goals, and there's more information about that on the syllabus. One question that's already come up quite a bit from people registered for the class is about textbooks. We are not going to be using any textbooks in this class. All the materials that you're required to use and engage with are available either as videos or PDFs right in the course shell. So you don't need to purchase anything additional, which is helpful. In addition to the assigned readings and kind of multimedia materials, I'm also providing a written overview for each online class session, which is available in eCollege. This overview isn't, quite an outline of the readings, but it really serves the purpose of like a lecture to give you some context and some history, that kind of situates the questions and problematics that we're looking at in each given day. So those, in addition to reading, all of the assigned materials, you're also responsible for reading those overviews for each class. And, there's plenty of like helpful kind of contextual information there. Many sort of links to other outside sources, and also trying to kind of provide us with some art throughout that really helps us visualize some of the issues and concerns a little bit differently. Sometimes art helps us use our brains in critical ways that we can't always get to through purely reading. So reading the overviews and viewing any of the material linked within them is required for the course, along with any actual readings that are assigned during the day, during that particular day. There's a schedule within the syllabus that basically outlines when you are expected to participate online. So we're meeting online Monday through Friday for the entire 3 weeks of winter session. Basically, all the course sessions are accessible through eCollege, and there's some instructions on the syllabus about how to access the course shell if you've never taken a class online before, or you've never accessed eCollege before. There's a link actually in the syllabus that you can click on that'll bring you right to the login page. So in terms of the format of the online course, you don't need to log into the course shell at the same time to meet as a group. There's not a live or simultaneous component to the class. You're essentially responsible for completing the work on your own schedule based on the outlines that I provide for you. So for each online session, Monday to Friday, you're responsible for reading the material and completing all the assignments by 11:59 p.m. on the day of that particular class session. So that means that you will have already read and engaged with any of the multimedia or digital materials that I've listed on the day for that schedule. Visiting the assignment section at the end of each online session's individual page and completing all the assignments that are listed there. So typically the assignments for online sessions include discussion forum responses. Often I'll provide a prompt, like a set of prompts or a way of thinking about some of the materials together that I ask you to consider and respond to. For one particular class on a Monday, for example, there's a little outline in the syllabus of like what that looks like. But essentially for each online session, you're required to do that one response and then provide two questions or comments on other students' responses. And all of that is due by 11:59 p.m. on the day of the class. So essentially for every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the winter session, you'll be posting your response and 2 comments to another student's response. And that's kind of where the bulk of the work comes. In addition to that forum work, we also have a shared course Tumblr. That's another component, but I'll get to that in a little minute. There's a section on the syllabus around expectations for online work. Definitely take a look at that, asking you to be, sort of authentic, enthusiastic, and committed in your online presence. We don't have a lot of time together in this 3 weeks, and I'm really hoping that folks can rally and, really draw on your own experiences and your own kind of critical, insights to make our forums a pretty robust place. It's we're in this together, and I'm looking forward to, kind of learning more about your learning styles and also how you're approaching the material. Sometimes I think there's also the tendency to feel less accountable in online spaces because we don't have that requirement of face-to-face interaction. So just reminding you that participation and presence online is extremely important. It counts for 40% of your grade, in fact. And that 40% comes from an assessment of your attendance and participation. So I'll talk a little bit more in a second about the breakdown of course requirements and where that comes from. Okay. Another quick note about eCollege. If you're having trouble accessing the course shell, there's a number available in the syllabus for the eCollege helpline and also an email address. So kind of as your instructor, I'm really responsible for content related questions. But if you're having technical difficulties, that's where you want to go to kind of reach out and get support around the technical side of things. So next is the kind of overview of grading and requirements. Essentially, there's 3 big pieces of your grade for this course. Attendance and participation is 40%. Your online portfolio, which includes your discussion responses, your comments, and then your Tumblr posts, that counts for another 40%. And then your final project is 20% for a total of 100%. I've also provided you with the kind of grading rubric that I'm going to use for the course. So as I'm reading your responses, I'm really looking for 3 big pieces. Your ability to analyze the course material, your ability to offer a critique of the material, and your ability to properly kind of structure the assignment and organize your argument. And there's some more kind of specific info about those 3 components on the syllabus as well. Each discussion response, so every time you make your initial post plus your 2 comments, it's going to be graded out of a total of 6 possible points. So that means you can receive a total of 4 possible points for your initial post plus 2 possible points for each required comment. Tumblr posts are graded on a kind of pass-fail basis. So essentially, you just need to post those, and you'll get the credit for them. There's a kind of a rubric available in the syllabus as well that outlines like what a number, what an excellent response is, what's in a response that would get a 4, what's in a response that would get a 3 and a 2 and a 1 and a 0. And essentially, those numbers will be based on your ability to provide that analysis, critique, and proper kind of organization of your post. And, as always, feel free to reach out to me if you have like specific questions about that. I essentially also try to post your grades regularly on Gradebook in eCollege so that you can also have a pretty good sense of where you're at and how you're doing. So that's something that you'll be able to check that as things progress. Attendance is mandatory. Essentially, failing to post a response and a comment to the forum by 11:59 p.m. during any of our online sessions will be considered an absence. I know that life can be complicated, so I am extending the opportunity for 1 unexcused absence over the course of the winter period. So that essentially means you may not post a response and a comment for a particular day one time without being penalized. If you continue to miss online sessions, every unexcused absence after that first will drop your final grade to the next lowest level. So an A- will become a B+, a B+ will become a B, and that's your final grade. Because we have such limited time in this winter session, we have to be pretty strict and on top of attendance and participation. So just sort of know that. Participating fully is, essentially engaging with the forums, doing the posts, doing the comments. Another big piece of participation for me is following up on the comments that I make on your posts. So I will, as folks are posting each day, responding to the comments, I will also be in on the forums, giving you thoughts, suggesting, other materials that you might want to look at. And a high participation grade, that comes by showing me that you are also reading my comments and engaging with them and responding to them. So any work kind of above and beyond those two comments that you're responding to, is only generating kind of more for us to work with. And so that's awesome. That's what we're hoping for. So I suggest that even after you've made your posts for a particular day, you may take one more look the next day back at the forums from the previous day, just to kind of see if there are things that, I've commented on or others have commented on that you might want to hear. 3 times throughout the winter session, I'm also going to provide you all with an unannounced reading quiz. And I found out that this is, a helpful way for me to ensure that people are in fact doing the readings. And that quiz, those 3 quizzes will be graded as part of your attendance and participation grade. So I'm now looking at the part of the syllabus that's talking about your online portfolio. So like I mentioned, for each online class, you are required to respond to the prompt that I post, which will be available by 9 a.m. on the day of the class. In terms of word count, somewhere between 300 and 700 words is a good approach for your initial response. You have to post at least 250 words for your post to count as a full post. And I do check word counts. Being succinct is great. And obviously I encourage that, but I found that in order to really kind of access the depth of material we need, to write together. So this is your chance to do that. So at least 250 words. There's no length requirement on the comments that you're giving to other students' posts, but ultimately, that's your chance to interact and kind of discuss and, hold dialogue and hold space with your classmates. So taking those comments seriously is something that I'm also asking you to do. So the Tumblr. Today, I guess, many issues kind of pertinent to the topics of gender, race, and sexuality are unfolding in front of us on the internet all the time. Social media has become a way, for us to connect and discuss and challenge and critique. And Tumblr is definitely a place where a lot of this stuff is unfolding. So I like to use it as a teaching tool for that reason. Some people are familiar with the platform. Other people have never used it before. That's totally fine. You're responsible for making a total of 2 posts to our course Tumblr every week. And those posts can be, links to articles that you find interesting, text posts of like a piece of creative writing, an image or a meme or a photo that you find relevant. Essentially, it's a place for you to kind of use to use that Tumblr outlet as a way to connect up the things that you're encountering throughout your life and other places with the work that we're doing in the course. And so, they don't have to be super in-depth, but it's one way at least for us to, kind of track the ways in which our topics of conversation play out in the world around us. So you're responsible for posting 2 times a week for a total of 6 posts to the shared Tumblr. There are some instructions in the syllabus on how to post to the Tumblr. You don't need to have your own Tumblr account to post to the shared Tumblr. Essentially, you visit the URL for our shared Tumblr, which is grs2017.tumblr.com. When you enter that URL, the page will pop up and ask you for a password. I've password protected our blog just, to kind of maintain some confidentiality stuff. Password is GRS2017. And so that'll bring you to our main page. Essentially, then you just click the submit link at the top of the page, which brings you to the submission box where you'll be able to choose the type of media you want to post. So text, photo, link. You enter your name and your email, and you proceed with attaching the image or pasting the link, whatever you want. Once that media has been added, you check that box that says that you accept the terms and conditions and click submit. Your post won't show up right away, so I have to actually approve the posts as they come in. So I'll be checking the Tumblr several times a day, and as the admin for that Tumblr, approving the posts, and then they should show up. So if you have any questions at all about the Tumblr component, please look at the syllabus, follow those directions, and then reach out to me if you're still having trouble, okay? Late assignments, no good. Please complete your work on time. Discussion forums will be open 24 hours after the due date, and then they close. If you submit an assignment during that 24 hours, you will receive half credit. And it's really your, responsibility to ensure that you have enough time to keep up with this class and to make the posts on time, which then requires that you have done the reading on time. So that last final piece of the course expectations are a final project, which will kind of engage with your experiences in the course over the winter session. The project is a chance for you to kind of link up your own interests to this course material. So the project can take many forms depending on what you want to do. You may choose, a short research project, for example. So picking a question based on, some of the themes that we've discussed, developing a question, researching it, and then writing up, about 5 to 6 page paper. You could also do something a little bit more creative or artistic after consulting me. People have done videos, people have done short stories, blogs, people have made Tumblrs based on, particular topics. Folks have written political manifestos, they've done slam poetry. I'm open to a lot of ideas for sure. So podcasting is another one that folks have played around with a little bit. So I want you to be thinking about the final project now at the beginning of the session, even though it's not due until the very end. I'm interested in, your ideas and kind of brainstorming. I'm going to ask you to submit a 1-paragraph description of your final project by Thursday, January 8th, and then that project is due in class on the last day, Friday, January 13th. I forgot to also mention, if you aren't comfortable kind of developing your own final project, I will also provide you with some writing prompts so that you can write a more traditional paper if that's something that you are interested in. A couple of other details on the course, class environment. We are working together here respectfully and mutually and supportively. We are going to be talking, quite often about our own experiences, our own identities, where we came from. And this stuff can be pretty intimate and personal and can also bring stuff up for people sometimes. So this is, I guess, my reminder to you and my call to you to really, contribute to an open and respectful environment where people's experiences are valued. as part of this kind of learning community that we're putting together for this short amount of time. Regardless of differences of opinion, the fact that we all have opinions matters, and so we need to really do our best to make room for that in the forums. If you're having difficulty or feeling uncomfortable, or like something is not working for you, please reach out as soon as possible. I like to actually really remind folks that, reaching out to me as soon as something starts to feel off is far better than shutting down and not posting for, 4 days and then being super behind and not really knowing where to go from there. So I'm here, make use of me, essentially. In terms of communication stuff, I'm also going to be sending emails quite regularly with updates, possible changes to the syllabus, changes in reading. So I'm asking you also to be really on top of your email and the communication stuff that's coming from me. I'll check my email multiple times a day, every day that our class is in session. And I'm asking you to also kind of stay on top of that with kind of care and effort. Plagiarism has certainly been an issue in the past. So I've got some stuff on the kind of official Rutgers plagiarism policy, which you should absolutely read. And if you're unsure about matters of plagiarism, also please reach out to me before handing in the assignment. Part of what we're doing here is learning how to be writers and to participate in a scholarly community together. And so learning how to properly cite your sources is a part of that. I have been doing this for a while, and so I am pretty good at figuring out when the stuff that folks are posting is not their own work. And so know that, and know that I will call you out on it if that is an issue. There's also some info on the syllabus about disability support services and accommodations. If that's something that you need, also please reach out to me, reach out to Disability Services, and we want to try to initiate that process as soon as possible. Okay, so the end of the syllabus is the coursework and reading schedule. So here's where we sort of outline all the work that we're going to be doing together. I'm not going to go through this super in depth, but I'm going to kind of give you the highlights. So our first unit is on feminist orientations, power, and privilege. And this is the unit where we really start to kind of understand the multiple definitions of feminism, some of the tensions and problematics in feminism throughout, the last 200 years in the United States and more globally. Reading lots of women of color feminists. That's a kind of political choice. In teaching this class, I'm trying my best to assign readings that give us access to voices and positions and experiences that are often devalued or silenced in more kind of mainstream understandings of race and gender and sexuality. So we're looking for, the ways that power work in how we create our own knowledges. And thinkers like Audre Lorde and Bell Hooks really give us some beautiful and really moving descriptions of what it means to fight for liberation around issues of race, gender, and sexuality. This concept of intersectionality will also come up again and again and again in these first couple of class sessions. So whether you know what that word is right now or not, more will come on that. We'll also be talking a little bit about feminist activism in digital spaces in this first section. Unit 2 is critical encounters, knowledge, power, and the body. And here we're thinking a little bit more about how we know what we know, and how we can kind of critically take that apart. So we'll talk some about rape culture, we'll talk about the fat body, we'll talk about sex and media, we'll talk about transgender experiences, and about the kind of assumptions that we have around the binary differences of nature and culture. And so if this stuff doesn't make sense right now, that's totally fine. It's pretty laid out, and we're here to learn. So that's what we'll be doing together. The last unit is systems of confinement and practices of resistance. Here we're talking a little bit more about policing and incarceration, migration, labor, militarisms, and we're finishing out with 2 units on activism, two course sessions on activism and social change. The first day we'll focus a little bit on this report called Transvisible, which is a kind of research report on transgender Latina immigrants in the U.S., so a kind of intersection of several different kind of complicated identities. The last one is engaging with the Scarlet and Black Project, which is a project that was instigated by the Rutgers administration, looking at the role of slavery and dispossessed populations in the history of Rutgers. And they've begun to formulate this really cool web-based project that looks at the ways that slavery, racism, sexism, heterosexism has kind of infiltrated the history of our own institution and what we might need to look at to kind of begin to undo some of that. So we'll be looking at that the last day of class. And then, well, the day before the last day. And then final projects are due on Friday the 13th. It's a little auspicious. And we're wrapped up. So it's going to go by quickly, but also a tremendous amount of work. So I'm looking forward to departing on this journey with you. I will send an email. You'll probably have received that email by now if you're watching this video, with some details on the first assignments. So Friday, December 23rd is our first course day. There are no readings assigned for this day, but you do have to make posts to 3 separate forum questions. And so you'll see those on the kind of side panel of eCollege when you log in. There is a week 1. I guess there's a 1 section for the 23rd, and then there's a 1 section for week 1, week 2, and week 3. You may not be able to see week 2 and 3 because I'm still finalizing some of the development of the course shell over there. But week 1 will be all ready to go. So if you wanted to actually also get a little bit of a head start on reading, you should have access to all those materials right away. Okay, well, I hope that this was helpful for you and orienting you to some of the expectations of the course. I'm really looking forward to getting to know all of you better. And as I've said multiple times, please, please, please stay in touch. Reach out if you're struggling, and we will make it work together. Okay, talk soon. Bye.